Is this the dagger?
G'day guys, JB here, and it is the end of December, and it is time to update my MVP race for the 25-26 NBA season. There are some serious movers and shakers in this race right now. There's a lot of congestion right throughout, and there's certainly some injuries that are going to play a big role in what's going to happen with this race. Some fixturing stuff and some team results certainly an impact as well, but it's injuries overall that are going to cost it, potentially trades that are going to cost it as well, and you'll see that with some of the results that we've got here at the end of December. There's not much movement, but there's enough just to keep it interesting, so let's get into it. The MVP race, from my perspective, to the end of December for the 25-26 NBA season. Of course, the parameters on the MVP for me, these have never changed. Outside of the fact that the 65 game pace rule is all that's edited from the number of years that I've done this. So are you on pace, or can you still play 65 games? That's one. Are you leading your team to wins? That's two. Have you been traded or the centre of a trade talk at the moment? That's number three. And number four, is your team in playoff contention? And I don't mean play in contention, I mean playoff contention. At the moment, I still have that sitting as a top 8 team in a respective conference. I may have to really look at what that does as far as a top 6 team is concerned in the future. But it's really simple, really straightforward. Do you fit into these qualifications? Are you going to play 65 games? Are you leading your team to wins? Is there any talk of trade, or have you been traded? And playoff hopes for your respective franchise. We do have a couple of honourable mentions, which we'll get into first, and then of course we'll crack into the top 10. Our first honourable mention in the MVP list is a guy that looked like he was going to shoot a long way up the MVP race at the start of the year, but injuries and now trade talks and underperformance by his team certainly have concerns around that. And it's definitely that trade and that injury that looks like it's going to cause some troubles for this man here. My first honourable mention being Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks. And Giannis is having a reasonably handy season, but when you factor in that he has already missed 14 games and potentially is going to miss a few more and is potentially going to get traded, we may not see him on this list for very much longer. He's still having a nice season though. 28.9 points, 10 rebounds, 5.8 assists, 0.9 steals, 0.9 blocks on 3.3 turnovers, 63.9 from the field, 39.3 from deep, and 65.5 from the free throw line. As I said, he's played in 20 games, 28.7 minutes in those games, so that's a lot of production for a guy who hasn't been on the court that much. 11-9 win-loss record in the games that he's played, and I've had him leading them to 10 of those 11 wins. So it's clear that the impact is still there. He does have the ability to get it done on all ends of the floor, and he can do it efficiently, and certainly one of his more efficient seasons of recent memory. But the question now is going to be whether he's even with Milwaukee at the end of the year, and whether he's on the floor by the end of the year. Milwaukee themselves have tried to put some pieces around him and trying to get them to contribute. Your Kyle Kuzmas, your Bobby Portis, your Ryan Rollins, your Miles Turner, Gary Trent Jr., even AJ Green has had moments where he's contributed. Kevin Porter Jr. obviously stepping up as well. But that team is built around him. The success of that team is based on the success of Giannis, and unfortunately he hasn't had a great deal of it this year due to injury concerns, due to trade rumours, you name it, he's had it. Still think he's been really productive. I still think he's got a lot to offer in this league. And don't get me wrong, I think he's going to really rack up the wins responsible for on whatever team he's on. It doesn't matter in that circumstance. But a trade and not being able to play 65 games is ultimately what's going to hamper him here. I mean, he's only got 4 games that he can miss for the rest of the year. Whether he manages that, I don't know. But that's essentially where we stand with Giannis. So he is my first honourable mention to the end of December for my MVP race for 25-26. Second honourable mention goes over to the Atlanta Hawks, who, again, they are not sitting well at the moment. I mean, they are outside the top 8 in the East, but they are still sitting slightly ahead of Milwaukee. They are in play-in territory compared to Milwaukee, who is not in play-in territory, but that still, that doesn't cut the mustard essentially with how this stuff works for me. My other honourable mention is Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks, and he has had an absolute breakout year, and he had a really nice year last year, but he has had a tremendous year this year, and the numbers speak for themselves. 24 points, 10.4 rebounds, 8.4 assists, 1.4 steals, and 0.5 blocks on 3.5 turnovers. 52.9 from the field, 37.3 from deep, and 82.3 from the free throw line. He is a genuine star of this competition right now. Definitely a star in the East. One of the leading players in the East this year. And it certainly looks like he's going to be the cornerstone that Atlanta stick with. The issue is that they have struggled to win games. They've had a huge skid recently, which really contributed to where they sit right now. And they've started tumbling down the standings. But something tells me that if Trae Young is moved on, then we might see this guy start to bounce back a little bit. He might not. He might get overpowered with a new acquisition. But he certainly was playing a lot freer without Trae on the squad. He's played in 31 games, and considering that the Hawks have played 35, he's still comfortably within the realm of playing 65 and 35.3 minutes, really contributing. You can see, though, he's played in some of those losses, particularly that skid, which has really skewed the win-loss record there with him on the floor. 15 and 16, and I still have him ahead on 10 wins there. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens, because Trae Young looks to be the guy they're going to get rid of. The team has not looked the same with him there. It then becomes a factor of what happens with Jalen Johnson's role on this team, considering he has established himself. Realistically, he's been a 25, 10 and 8 guy all year. That's an unbelievably high echelon player. Whether they can stick with that as the number one option and then have their defense hopefully pick up a little bit in the back half of the season remains to be seen. But as we stand right now, sitting in the 10th seed in the East, my second honourable mention to the end of December for the 25-26 MVP race is Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks. Moving into the top 10, and this is a guy who essentially hasn't been able to add to his MVP credentials much since the start of December due to injury concerns, and it's injury concerns that may write him out for the year, but there are concerns that he's probably going to have for most of his career. Thankfully, the Spurs are a pretty deep team, but they're a hell of a lot deeper when the guy who, on both sides of the ball, is probably the best player on the planet right now. Number 10, I have Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs for the season when he's been on the floor. 24.3 points, 11.7 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 0.8 steals, and 2.9 blocks on 3.2 turnovers. There's no doubt when he is on the floor, he has a case as the most valuable player in the league. That doesn't mean he is, but he certainly has a case. Unfortunately, the best ability is availability, and it's something that he just doesn't have at the moment. He's shooting 52.5 from the field, 36.5 from deep, and 84.1 from the line. As I mentioned, injuries are the concern. He is now out with a knee hyperextension. I don't know how long that's going to be. They're saying that scans came back negative, which is, well, positive. But he's already missed a dozen games. He's 21 of 33, 29.8 minutes, a 15 and 6 win-loss record for 9 wins. But it's going to come down to durability here for Wembanyama. Now, the Spurs have proven that they can still perform. De'Aaron Fox, Stephen Castle, Dylan Harper's had a nice rookie season. Keldon Johnson continues to contribute when he is on the floor. As I said, Dylan Harper playing really, really well. You're getting some nice pinch hit out of Harrison Barnes, Devin Vassell, Julian Champagny. Luke Cornett's proven to be crucial for them as well. But let's be honest, they don't make up for the fact that you've got a bloke at 7'5" and the rest that is just a game changer. I mean, the Spurs have beaten the Oklahoma City Thunder, who were on pace and looked like they were going to at least get close to that all-time win record this season, and they've thrown an absolute spanner in the works, and a big part of that has been Wemby. A lot of that as well has come down to the culture that he's trying to reinstill into the Spurs as a franchise, just to try and get them growing, get them moving, and really ride this wave, because they're a young side that's going to be around for quite some time. Whether Wembanyama is a big factor in that based on his injuries is the other question. So we'll see how it pans out. Right now he's 10th. He could very well fall out purely based on injuries and availability, but there's no doubt that his ability is there. At number 10 in my MVP race for the 25-26 NBA season to the end of December, Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs. Moving to number 9, and this is a guy who has been pretty consistent. I've talked about his consistency for a number of years now. It's a matter of whether anyone really listens to it or not. And they tend not to, because he was overshadowed by playing with one of the better point guards of the modern era, if not the best point guard of the modern era, which really took away from what he is producing. And what he's doing this year has certainly helped lift his teammates as well. He's leading the team in scoring. He's leading the team in assists. He's been one of their more durable players, if not their most durable player, and consistently out there performing on a nightly basis. For the Phoenix Suns, who are having a nice run this year, currently sitting really comfortable out there in the West at 7th. They've sort of fluctuated a little bit here as far as wins and losses, but so is everyone else out there. So they've been stuck with where they're at. Of course, Victor Wembanyama is sitting 2nd in the West, but he just hasn't been on the floor as much as this guy. Devin Booker, my 9th pick to the end of December in the MVP race of 25-26. 25.5 points, 4.2 rebounds, 6.3 assists, a steal, and 0.4 blocks on 3.4 turnovers, 45.7 from the field, 30.1 from deep, and 85.4 from the free throw line. As I said before, this is a guy who is well and truly within the realm of playing in those 65 games. He's only missed 3 this year. He's played in 30. In those games, 34.2 minutes a contest, 18 and 12 is the record that this team has when he is on the floor, and I've got him responsible for 11 wins for this team. As I said with Devin Booker, he really is an underrated combo guard, in my opinion, with what he's actually able to bring to the table, because if you need him to be your absolute number one scorer, there's no issues there whatsoever. He's quite capable of, putting 30, 35 points up a night, but if he needs to scale it back and distribute the basketball, he can very much go and be an 8, 9, 10 assist guy where he needs to, and that's been really crucial this year. Someone like a Colin Gillespie has really stepped up, and he's going to be a candidate for one of the most improved players in the league. He's doing this as well with Grayson Allen only seeing limited minutes. Someone like a Dylan Brooks has been really lifting his game this year, which has been a positive to see. Mark Williams has been a crucial recruit, and he's been chipping in where he can. Obviously, you've got to factor in that someone like a Jalen Green hasn't been as available as first thought. So when you factor all of that in, he's just been so consistent and really lifted the profile of this Phoenix team, who are playing a lot better than they were last year, particularly when you consider they had Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. But coming in at number 9 in my MVP race to the end of December for the 25-26 NBA season, Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns. Coming in at number 8, and this one may be a little bit controversial considering how high that I had this person at the start of the season and how well they really are playing. But it comes down to efficiency, it comes down to ability, and it comes down to the fact that this team has not gelled well. Not that it's necessarily this guy's fault, but he's the number one option. And I know he's playing next to LeBron James, but you've got to have some sort of leadership value in there as well. And I just don't know whether Luka's able to control these personalities and really establish this as truly his team with what's going on here. So at number 8, I have Luka Doncic of the Los Angeles Lakers. And stats-wise, it's not even a contest about how well Luka's playing. 33.5 points. He's leading the league in scoring to go over 8.2 rebounds, 8.7 assists, 1.5 steals, and 0.6 blocks. Now, you then turn it over to your efficiency markers there. 4.5 turnovers a game. He is having a lot of big turnover nights. 45.9 from the field with all those possessions can be concerning. 32.2 from deep is not ideal as an elite perimeter player in this league. And considering he leads the league in free throws attempted, 79.8 just really isn't getting it done. I'm getting down to the point of, James Harden was doing this stuff. There's a reason that James Harden wasn't winning anything. That's really what it comes down to. I think Luka is, somewhat a better player. But you've still got to be realistic of where they sit and what their output has been with all those factors. He's played in 24 games. Now, don't know whether it's going to be an overly big concern. He's missed 7 already and we're halfway through the season, sort of. So you would gauge that he's going to get to 65, but maybe he's only going to scrape 65. And if you've got other guys that are performing and playing more games, that becomes a factor. He's clearly on the floor where you need him at 36.3 minutes a game. 16-8 record under him, so they clearly can get it done. And I've got him responsible for 12 wins of those 16 wins that he's been a part of. But there are just some little nuances to his individual game. And then in turn, this team was playing a lot better without LeBron James on it. He wasn't necessarily needing to look for LeBron. He was getting other guys involved. They were in turn getting the ball back to him. There are sacrifices you have to make in your own game with a guy like LeBron. There's no doubt about it. We've seen it all, throughout history. But at the end of the day, you've got to still be able to produce wins. You've still got to be able to, help this team get over the line. And the Lakers have not been that team. They've gone from a 2nd seed to a 5th seed, and they're essentially sitting 5 games out of that 5th seed right now, out of that 2nd seed. So there's a little bit of work to be done there. But Luka is having an absolutely fantastic season once again, and that's a big reason why I have him at number 8 to the end of December in my MVP race for the 25-26 NBA season. Coming in at number 7 is a guy who was more of an honourable mention when I did my list in November, and a lot of that came down to record, but they have started to bounce back, have the Philadelphia 76ers. They are 6th in the East. They are 17-14, and this guy right here has, again, taken another step in his leadership and taken another step in his game for the season, to the point where he's genuinely one of the best guards in the NBA. And he has, I would say, just a more exciting version of what Devin Booker brings to the table. Therefore, he gets a little bit more coverage. He's also playing in one of the more marquee franchises of the league. But at number 7, I have Tyrese Maxey of the Philadelphia 76ers. A nice season for him so far when you look at all the factors of what he's really got around him versus what he's got to do. 30.8 points, 4.3 rebounds, 7.1 assists, 1.8 steals, and 0.8 blocks on 2.6 turnovers. 46.6 from the field, 39.6 from deep, and 88.8 from the free throw line. This guy gets downhill and in the open floor, and he is quick, and he is probably the best in the league at it. On top of that, he is not afraid to get to the perimeter and jack up a heap of shots, which he can make. And when he gets to the line from those downhill runs, he converts at the free throw line. Offensively, can't fault him, and he is a pickpocket defensively. So you do have to be really wary what he's doing, and you've got to think he's doing this realistically with Paul George as a third option and Joel Embiid still flirting with the idea of laying on a gurney for the rest of his life. So when you consider all of that, he's having a pretty good season. I mean, the concern ultimately is that they have had some real ups and downs. They've been relatively patchy in points, and some of that does come down to the fact that Maxey, because he doesn't mind running downhill pretty quick and he doesn't mind putting up those shots, there are some moments where it just isn't working out, but at the same time, when it does pay off, it pays off really, really well. I mean, just to give you some more idea of everyone around him, his most consistent teammates this year from an offensive standpoint have been VJ Edgecombe, a rookie, and Quentin Grimes, who himself has only started in 7 games and averaging 14 points. You look on the other side of it, Andre Drummond's coming off the bench trying to provide some relief. Kelly Oubre's played 12 games. Trent Watford, 14 games. There's just no consistency whatsoever with this lineup and what he's trying to do. As I mentioned, Jared McCain, he's trying to come back through, but he's coming off the bench as well. So you factor all of that in, and he's not having too bad of a season at all. At number 7 in my MVP race to the end of December for the 25-26 NBA season, Tyrese Maxey of the Philadelphia 76ers. Over to number 6. Now, this is a guy that I thought would be there and abouts if his team was going to be in playoff contention, because he is a genuine leader. But I didn't think it would be at a point where we're really having a conversation around, well, depending on how a couple of results go, how high exactly is he sitting in the MVP race. And right now, at number 6, I have Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. 29.5 points, 6.3 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.2 steals, and 0.5 blocks on 3.6 turnovers. A nice, efficient year from the field at 50.5 and 37 from deep, respectively. 77.6 from the free throw line. I still think if you are not a power forward or centre, you should be shooting at least 80% from the line. That's just a real bugbearer of mine as far as how players handle themselves. But he has been available 30 of 32 games played, 33.8 minutes in those games, 18-12. So, not a bad record, 60% winning record when he is there with the team. 13 of those 18 wins credited to him and what he's able to do. And to think that Boston, they're still sitting 3rd in the East, so they're really riding the wave right now. They haven't played as many games as Toronto, as Orlando, as New York, and certainly not as many as Detroit. So when they start to really catch up to these teams, depending on their opponents, then we'll get a greater understanding of exactly where they sit. But right now, they are a team to be slightly concerned about because the East is reasonably open. I still think New York are going to make a run. I still think Detroit can hold up despite being a young team. But Boston have that experience. They also have the fact that there's a guy called Jason Tatum who apparently is tracking really, really well, who may be back, which will then in turn make things a little easier for Jaylen Brown. But again, you look at some of the contributing factors on this team this year. He has had some pretty steady offensive help. The other 4 double-digit scorers on this team in Neemias Queta, Anthony Simons, Peyton Pritchard, and Derek White. They have been there. Derek White has been a really consistent player. He's going to be another all-defensive contender this year. He's been really, really smooth, albeit not from the field, but defensively he's been really nice. Of course, someone like Walsh, when he's been out there, has been playing really, really well defensively. So, there's plenty of upside to this Boston team. But I wouldn't have thought that when you mention those 3 other names that are helping him offensively, that it would scream a team that is going to be playing really, really well. So, really nice work by Brown. He's a Finals MVP for a reason, and that's why, as well, he sits at number 6 in my MVP race to the end of December for the 25-26 NBA season. We move on over to player number 5. The top 5 of the MVP race to the end of December for 25-26. And this guy last year had a hell of a season. He's having a hell of a season this year. And yeah, it's going to be pretty tough for me to say that this guy's not going to be in contention when his team is still holding on to a top 8 spot, and he is the one that's doing most of the heavy lifting, and that is Donovan Mitchell. He's played in 32 games. Cleveland themselves have played 35, so he's well and truly in that 65 game range. He's playing efficiently, he's carrying the workload, and they're getting it done when it's on him. 29.7 points, 4.6 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 1.5 steals and 0.3 blocks on 3.2 turnovers, 49.4 from the field, 38.9 from deep, and 84.9 from the free throw line. As I said, he's played in 32 games. He's averaging 33.8. And that's something that's, not unfamiliar for Donovan Mitchell, but in his Cleveland stint hasn't had to play those really extended minutes there. I mean, it's the most that he's played, certainly since 23-24 when he arrived. But they had been cutting right back where they needed to. 33.8 minutes a game. Again, the most that he's had since 23-24. 18-4 record through 32 games, and I've got him responsible for 14 wins. He finished 5th in the MVP race last year, and he's consistently going to be sitting in the top 5 again for me this year if he keeps it up. And of course, there's just been those concerns when you really look through that roster in Cleveland. Someone like DeAndre Hunter is currently out injured, or day to day, I should say. Larry Nance is out. He's out injured. Max Strus is out injured. Evan Mobley is not the player that he was last season. Darius Garland has been injured. They're trying to generate a little bit of bench scoring here or there, but they haven't been able to get consistent units together because of these injuries and because of the chop and change of their lineup. They're trying their best, but they're just not quite able to get there as it stands at the moment. I've liked Donovan Mitchell since he's come into the league. He's consistently been there, particularly as a small guard. And realistically, you would be getting a lot more attention on a Donovan Mitchell if he was doing this, kicking and screaming with a big franchise. People would make a hell of a lot of noise about it. There's no reason that we can't be doing that there with a small market. It's just not, it's not sexy for the media, essentially. But Donovan Mitchell, another great season, a rounded 35-6 on a team that's struggling to hold an 8th seed, and he's been responsible for pretty much all of their wins. That's why I have him at number 5 in my MVP race to the end of December for the 25-26 NBA season. Here is one that is bound to get conversations going. Probably not from me. I don't have that big of an audience. But when I factor everything in and the way things are panning out, I mean, the next 4 guys I feel you can pretty much clump together. You could probably clump all 5 from Donovan Mitchell through to my number 1 ranking if you really wanted to, or certainly through to number 2 as far as where they stand and impact on the game. But Nikola Jokic, for me, sits at number 4 in the MVP race to the end of December for the 25-26 NBA season. He is the lowest seeded team of the three that we are, or four teams that we're going to mention in our top four. The other concern now with Jokic, having played 32 games, is that he is expected to be out for up to 4 weeks. In that time, Denver are going to play at least 16 games, and that's if he's reevaluated to return. So we very well could see Jokic miss out potentially on another MVP case because he's out with injury. And there is a lot of big injuries right now for Denver, and we'll get into those. But Jokic so far on the season, just ridiculous averages. 29.6 points, 12.2 rebounds, and 11 assists a game. To give you an idea, he's leading the league in rebounds and assists. It's ridiculous how well this man has been playing. 1.4 steals, 0.8 blocks on 3.5 turnovers, and it's the efficient shooting that gets it done as well. 60.5 from the field, 43.5 from deep, and 85.3 from the free throw line. That would be ridiculously elite if you were a perimeter player. The fact you do that as a center is dumb. 32 games, as I mentioned. 32 of 33 for Denver as it stands. 34.6 minutes. 22 and 10 in the games that he's played, and 14 wins responsible for, in my opinion. Now, there have been some positives in the fact that Jamal Murray has been healthy and is playing to an all-star level, but that is the limitation right now of the health of the Denver Nuggets. Their injury list right now, all of the following players are listed as out, and that's Tamar Bates, Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson, and Nikola Jokic. 4 of their starting 5 in Brown, Gordon, Johnson, and Jokic are out. Bates as a rotation, and his backup now, Valanciunas, is expected to be out for a couple of weeks with a calf strain. So Denver's hopes and aspirations are now going to fall to that of Jamal Murray. Again, he's having a really nice year, but the league leader in rebounds and assists is gone, and the most efficient offensive basketball player on the planet is not on the floor. But he is in my MVP list at number 4 to the end of December for the 25-26 NBA season, Nikola Jokic. At number 3, the eye of the beholder of the success of arguably the second biggest franchise in basketball. At number 3, I have Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks. And Brunson is clearly the best player for New York this year, and he has stood up and shown out in more ways than I think many people expected, particularly since Karl Anthony Towns joined this team. The Knicks, 23 and 10 at the time of recording, 30 games played for Brunson, and they are actually a healthier team with him there than when he's not. So Brunson, 35.5 minutes per game, 22 and 8 record. I have him for 14 wins responsible for. As I said, there's a very big blanket, in my opinion, you can throw over number 5 through 1, but particularly number 5 through 2. As I said, at number 3, Jalen Brunson, 29.4 points, 3.3 rebounds, 6.6 assists, 0.8 steals, 0.1 blocks on 2.1 turnovers. So he's having a pretty efficient year, particularly for a little guy. 47.6 from the field, 38.7 from deep, and 84.5 from the free throw line. It's really simple. The Knicks have opened up a far different team this year. They're still a reasonably slow team, but their offensive production at 121.2 points has them top 3 as far as that's concerned. Their offensive rating at 122.6, they're third. Their net rating is 6.6, so then 4th in the league there as far as differential. They are just playing really, really good basketball, and a lot of it does come down to the fact that Brunson is the head of the snake once again. I don't think anyone can disagree that part of the reason the Knicks made the conference finals last year was Karl Anthony Towns. He is a huge reason that they were able to make that stand and able to make that next step because of how effective he is as a big. And he's been an all-star level player this year, but not to the level that he was last year where he had a case for All-NBA second team honours. I don't think that's going to be on the draw card this year, and he's had some pretty consistent help around him, but that's also been the key with him being able to get other players involved. From a double-digit points standpoint, they have had, along with Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, who's been injured, Josh Hart, Miles McBride, who's been injured, and Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench with a 10-piece there as well. So you look at the contributions that he's giving to this team, you look at the production and where they're seated, it's hard not to have Jalen Brunson at number 3. in my MVP race to the end of December for the 25-26 NBA season. Coming in at number 2, they are at the very top of the Eastern Conference, and this guy seems to be at the very top of his game, albeit possession heavy, but it's delivering results. It's getting others involved. It's seeing a much improved Pistons team, even on the one from last year, and they are threatening to have an early NBA Finals berth compared to where anybody thought they would be even 2 seasons ago. With the silver medal right now through December for the 25-26 NBA season, I have Cade Cunningham of the Detroit Pistons. He had a massive season last year. Again, I still don't think anyone gave Cade anywhere near the respect that he deserved for what he was able to produce, and I still don't think anyone's giving him the flowers he deserves right now. He's at worst a top 2 player in this conference this year. He's the one that has led this team to where it is. He's a big factor on it, and he has got a lot left in the tank. Had him 7th. They had him 7th in the MVP voting last year, and I think that's an absolute diabolical nightmare. And that's going to get rectified a lot this year. He's been huge. 26.5 points, 6.2 rebounds, 9.7 assists, 1.5 steals, and 0.7 blocks. 3.9 turnovers does concern me, and that's where some of the slip-ups do come with the Pistons. He does still struggle at times maintaining possession and efficiency with a basketball. 46.8 from the field, 30% from 33 from deep, if I get that right, and 82.1 from the free throw line. He is in no stress whatsoever of missing games. He's played in 30 of 33, 35.7 minutes in those contests, and 22-8 record for him as well, which is really interesting when you look at exactly how him and Brunson stack up. Also really interesting when you look at the record of Jokic at 29-10, and then you look at someone like a Donovan Mitchell at 18-14. But just another big season for him. Pistons started out slow, 2-2, had a lot of questions, managed to get out to as much as a 15-2 record. They've certainly come back to the pack over the last few weeks, but they had a nice middle run through December as well, and no doubt January will be much of the same. Cade just getting it done and making people, accountable and getting them rightly involved. I mean, you look at someone this year, you obviously got your Asar Thompsons and Isaiah Stewart. They're huge defensively. They benefit a lot from Cade. Tobias Harris came in after starting the season late. He's playing well. Jalen Duren, he's got a case for the most improved player in the league. He's been a massive benefit under Cade. And Duncan Robinson, who was all but gone, has proven to be an elite sharpshooter once again. But there can only be one person at the top of the list. Unfortunately, Cade just falls a little short. He's at number 2 in my MVP race to the end of December for the 25-26 NBA season. But at number 1, with a bullet, and while they have suffered 3 losses to the Spurs this year, it's very hard to deny the fact that the leader of this team right now is the best player in the NBA. And that includes Nikola Jokic, who's unbelievably capable offensively. But what Shai is also doing from a shooting guard position is not being talked about enough. And it's unfortunate because he's just being overshadowed by what is being produced by Jokic as a center. Shai is leading the best team in basketball. They have the best record in the league. They were on pace at one stage to be arguably the greatest single-season team ever. It's not out of the realm of possibility they still win 70 games. At worst, they're going to be high 60s once again, but they're going to clear that 65 gap I predicted. And a lot of it comes down to this man. 32.1 points, 4.7 rebounds, 6.4 assists, 1.6 steals, and 0.7 blocks per game as a shooting guard on 1.9 turnovers. A rounded 32, 5, and 6, 2 steals and a block on less than 2 turnovers. And if that wasn't impressive enough, Shai's shooting 56.3% from the field as a 2 guard, 42% from deep, and 88.6% from the free throw line. Every possible measurable metric that you want to throw at this guy, he meets. And he's a pretty handy team defender. Pretty handy team defender. In 33 games, oh, by the way, 33.2 minutes a game, so he's not even, he's still a few minutes per game below someone like a Luka. They're 28-5, and he's been responsible for 23 of their wins. He is running away at a great pace a tremendously great pace with this award, and providing he stays healthy, it's not going to be a contest. There really isn't much more I need to say. If he did this in Los Angeles, if he did this in Boston, if he did this in Chicago, if he did this in New York, there would be no questions whatsoever around Shea. But he's in a smaller market team, he doesn't fit the bill, and yeah, okay, he probably does take advantage of some of the free throw stuff. There's no doubt about it. But everyone takes advantage of the free throw stuff. And it's, not a shock to anybody. He's also not leading the league in free throw attempts. That's going to the bloke at number 8 on this list. Again, running away with the MVP award already in December. For 25-26 at number 1, I have Shea Gildeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that's the list, ladies and gentlemen. Again, just to recap what we've seen here so far. For those qualified at 65 game pace, leading your team to wins, having not been traded or primarily talked about in trades, and playoff hopes still alive. An honourable mention to Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks and Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks. At number 10, Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs. At number 9, Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns. Number 8, Luka Doncic of the Los Angeles Lakers. Number 7, Tyrese Maxey of the Philadelphia 76ers. At number 6, I have Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. Starting my top 5, I have Donovan Mitchell of the Cleveland Cavaliers. At number 4, I have the most efficient offensive basketballer on the planet, Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets. At number 3, I have the apple of the eye of the Big Apple, Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks. At number 2, I have the leader of the resurgent Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham, and leading the way by an absolute margin. He's 9 wins clear, in my opinion, of anyone else contending for this award. I have Shea Gildeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Anyway, guys, that's been me. That has been my MVP race to the end of December for 25-26. I'm out.